Hey, what's going on, everyone? Just wanted to make a little video here. I don't know how quick it'll be, but just wanted to kind of go over the state of my collection, as it were, and all the knives that I'm looking at. Like realizing I definitely enjoy reviewing knives, but wanted to give a little like context for the knives that I have at my disposal or the ones that I use on a day-to-day basis, and yeah, kind of just go over them really quickly with you all. First, I'm going to go through my fixed blades, and obviously realizing that carrying fixed blades, I think it's kind of the most traditional form of having a knife in a way. And what kind of got me into that, and I don't have my grandfather's K-bar out here, but I also I really got into trench knives. So one of the knives that I have is a 1917 trench knife. So this is made by LF&C. And the interesting thing about this is when they switched from the 1917 to the 1918, the only really salient characteristic they had with this knife was that it had to be able to punch through a German peacoat, which this triangular blade was actually outlawed by Geneva Conventions after World War One, and it also had to be able to survive shell shock. So what they were finding was, GIs in the course of getting hit in trench warfare, they were being knocked unconscious, and that's where you get into the 1918 trench knife, which this is probably my favorite knife in my collection. So this is an original LF&C or Allion, as it were, US 1918 trench knife. So these are the ones that actually probably saw action during World War One, and I just love the design, like kind of the story that it tells. I mean, it's certainly a museum piece. I don't leave it out around the house or anything like that, but this knife to me, it tells a story, and I love that about it. So I would say that these like trench knives kind of got me into knife collecting and kind of where I'm at today. Moving forward with that, as I've mentioned in one of my past videos, I was on a counterterrorism team for 4 years as an officer in charge, and one of the guys on my team, he actually started making knives. This is a kukri that he made for me. His last name's Street, so I think he's going by like Street Knives or something like that. But love kukris, as an awesome leather sheath with it. That's one of my favorites. He also made me. There's actually two of these. My dad having the other one, but these it's a bronze Cerakote, really nice blade, and yeah, I was actually really impressed when I got this, realizing that he's making these out of his garage. I just thought that they were a really cool design. And honestly, before I got this, I ended up getting from Tour Knives, which I will actually end up reviewing this just because I feel like it's worth it. But this is a Tour Vandal, which, yeah, I got my team kind of symbol engraved on the other side of it, but I was really unhappy with the fit and finish of this, and a lot of the the motivation behind that was seeing the knives that my buddy out of his garage was putting together, and I was just like, for the price, I was like, come on guys, like you got to do better. But as I said in one of my videos, I contacted Connor Tour. He was basically like, oh, like people love that about custom knives, that there's, little intricacies that are kind of weird and stuff. And I don't know, I could never really get behind it. So this one never really made it onto my kit at all, which will bring me to my next fixed blade, which this one, center line all day on my kit. It's kind of funny. This is like a United Cutlery, just very run of the mill. It's not even sharp. It's literally just good for stabbing. But I loved having it center line to be able to grab it with either hand. This knife has been with me all over the world, South America, the Middle East, and it's kind of funny how we get these connections with knives. Like this is definitely the one that was on my kit. I had a sheath made by that same guy that made those other knives. That one went there. And on my belt, actually, one of my favorite fixed blades of all time, which I'm gonna get to reviewing. I need to get some something to be able to carry it now that I'm in like a normal job. But Chris Reeve Professional Soldier, this is my favorite fixed blade of all time. Like I always had this strong side on my gun belt. this knife has been through a lot. I've lost it several times. It's always been returned to me. They don't make it anymore, but I think like as far as like the size goes, this was like an ideal knife for me. Like I think if you had to pick one knife, a Chris Reeve Professional Soldier, that should be at the top of your list. Other knives that I've looked at in the past, I'm just gonna kind of, my aim with this is just to go over like all the knives that I have. But CRKT, this is a Shrill design, so double edge. Not really sure what it's good for, but it's very thin. I like the sheath. I find myself kind of carrying this around the yard just in my pocket. It's a really nice all around knife. Getting into half face blades, which this is this is the last half face blades fixed blade that I own. I actually ended up trading one of my Winklers for it, and I do like it. This is a Disaster Junior. I'm definitely gonna hold on to this. I'm not really into custom half face blades. Like I feel like I don't know. I kind of took it down my video that I had posted. Kind of, I don't know, like expressing my thoughts on half face blades. But I do think like there's they're great knives. They have a place. I mean, they're right up there with Winkler. But I'm just, as far as their customs go, I'm just kind of like, no one's really carrying them in the field, and I wasn't really interested in that. Moving on, the last fixed blade that I'm going to cover. So, huge RMJ fan, and this is the Jackdraw, which I picked it up prior to a trip that I took in like kind of the backwoods of Alaska. I was in Kodiak, took a bush plane about 40 miles to the south of Kodiak, and this thing was awesome. Like, and I really do love this, the Jackdraw. Like I have, certainly to be able to like scout carry this thing. I think up for a day-to-day blade as far as fixed blades go, like this does it all. And I mean, there's so many fixed blades out there, so many that are around this size, but I always found use with this, whether I was preparing food. I mean, you could in a pinch use this for self-defense. Like I really love like the all-around nature of this knife, and it's one of those that I got. I don't think I'll get rid of it. Like I really do. If I'm carrying a fixed blade 90% of the time, it's going to be the Jackdraw. All right, now the moment that everyone's been waiting for. My folders. I love folding knives. From my past videos, like huge Strider fan, but I just kind of wanted to get like not a state of the collection, but basically where I'm at with things. First, Hinderer XM18. I haven't reviewed this yet, but I want to. I'm trying to be careful about this one because there's so many knives that kind of compete with this one that I want to make sure that I get it right when I do it. So XM18, that's forthcoming. As far as garbage knives go, I've never been a fan of OTFs, but this is a Schrade Viper that I picked up a long time ago, and I actually ended up having to re-tip it because the tip broke at one point, but I just kind of did my best to replicate what it had going on. I'm not a fan of OTFs. They don't do anything for me, and at the end of the day, like what I've learned from owning, Microtech CFOs to the different Halos to Combat Trudons to Ultratechs, like I just know that they're not for me. But this one was one of those that it was so cheap that I was like, I'll just keep it. This honestly just sits in my gun safe. I never use it, so if you're interested, hit me up. The next knife in no particular order. So this is a Victorinox kind of Swiss Army blade that my dad got me. I'll hold on to this forever. Aluminum blade. Like the knife, just a regular friction lock. Doesn't get much use, which is unfortunate because it is a really nice blade. But I think he got this when he was on like a river cruise in Europe. So I hold on to things that people get me for sure. So there's that. The next knife, which I haven't got to review this yet, but I'm planning on doing it in the near future, is it's a Chris Reeve large Inkosi, and I've owned several Chris Reeves in my life, and I don't know. They never last as long for me as the Striders do, but I do respect them, and I'll probably hold on to this one. This one's a little bit like modified, but you'll see that in the video once I actually post it. But huge fan of Chris Reeve for sure. All right, the next knife, and I apologize, it's getting dark here in California. As far as folders go, but it's not really a folder. So the Rexford Rut, which this actually just takes a normal utility blade. I'm a huge fan of these. I actually got my father into one of these. I think all around, like I keep one of these out. I have another one actually. It's embarrassing to say. Yeah. So I have another one as well, and I just think these are great all-around blades. Like, I love having utility blades. Honestly, 90% of the stuff that I do is done with utility blades, but this was my first Rexford Rut, and huge fan of it. If you don't have a utility blade, and again, you don't have to spend this price on them, like they can be had on Amazon all day for $9. Get something that takes a normal utility blade and use it. All right, the next knife in my folder lineup is going to be the Lone Wolf Eagle Talon, which I made a video about this one. It was probably really long-winded. I apologize, but this one, to me, it's awesome. I'll never have another one. I think it's great. I love the, scale automatic. So, I mean, I can either flip this with my thumb, or if I'm feeling frisky, damn. Love it. This is just one that, this is a personal thing. Like, there's no, rhyme or reason as to why I keep it, but it is what it is. The next knife for me, and I have a few joke knives in here, I'm going to be honest with you, but my neighbor actually brought this up to me, but this is the smallest Spyderco that I own, which I think it's kind of cool, though. I keep it with some of my smaller knives, yeah, but I don't know. I just love it. So I have one of these too, little Spidey folder. The next knife for me, I forget what model this is, but this is a Benchmade. It's an Osborne design, 154 cm, has the Axis lock on it. I keep this one by the door, and my father actually got this for me for my birthday one year, and I do like it, but it's unfortunately it's kind of like my beat around knife. I like it. It has a special place. Like, I'll never sell this knife, for instance, but it's not one of those knives that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna review this thing, and this is supposed to be something that it's not. The next knife is the Berg Bottle Breacher, which I actually just got two of these. I wanted to get one for my neighbor, but I thought it was really cool. Like, the spine on it is super thick. It opens bottles with this Kydex sheath, and it's just nice to have like a small blade with a key ring on it. So I thought that was kind of cool. Next folder that I have, the Half Face Blades SHPOS folder Gen 3. I reviewed that one. This is one of the few half face blades that I'll actually hold on to. I do like it, but if you're trying to get into one of these, like, realize what it's for. It's not going to be a great EDC any day. The next knife is actually a multi-tool, which I didn't bring all my multi-tools because I have a couple in my Jeep, have a couple in my drawers, whatever, but this was like the first Leatherman multi-tool that my father gave me, and the one I have in my Jeep is actually engraved. This is another one. I know they normally come in like a leather sheath, but I love the feeling of this knife, and it's just very familiar to me. Like, growing up, my dad always had one of these in like the top drawer in his bedstand that I could use, kind of thing. Super useful, super meaningful to me. So this is another knife that has a permanent place in my collection. All right, next as we move on, I have a Shurgorov. This is the Neon NL in LMAX, which I recently reviewed. Kind of on the fence about keeping this one. If I have a knife, I definitely want to use it and use it well. I also have a Shiro Ursus coming. So I'm going to kind of compare the two and then decide which one I want to keep out of those two. But this has been a great knife. Again, like, being introduced to this grade, this quality of knife was really cool to kind of open my eyes to what's out there. The next knife, huge Prometheus Design Works fan slash Tad. This is a PDW Balisong, which titanium handles. It's an M390. If you're sleeping on Prometheus Design Works, like, please don't. They have a lot of knives that are made by Terrain 365. They're awesome knives and yeah, great materials. I thought for a while that I was gonna collect PDW knives, and I just kind of got away from it. Like, the more knife reviews I did, or the more knives that I experienced, I kind of narrowed it down a little bit. This one's actually for sale right now if anyone's interested, but like, I love the Balisong design, like the idea that it used to be used by tree trimmers. They had something that they could open with one hand. Like, I think that it's definitely a timeless design. I don't know, I kind of got more into folders. Next knife, so Medford Slim Midi. This is definitely a user, but I like it, especially since I got another Medford, which is into two knives. I do like this knife. I think I'm going to hold on to it. It's a great size for carry. I really like Medford, what Greg Medford's doing. I'm going to hold on to that one. Next knife, this is another PDW, but this is an Invictus Midi in M390. I love the Invictus design. I've since sold my STSs that I owned, as well as other Prometheus Design Works knives, but this one will stay with me. Love the blade shape, etc. The next knife, Medford 187. Just reviewed this thing. It is a absolute behemoth. I think I will hold on to this one as well, but it's definitely on like the larger end of the knives that I own. Next knife, huge Tribot Design fan. This is going to be a Tad Dauntless. This is the Mark IV, I believe. So the newer version of it. Would love to see these come back. Realizing that they're like a mid-tech design. These haven't been around for, they haven't come up for a while here, but I would love to see these come back. Like, I love the spear point, the choil, everything about that. So that's one of my favorite knives. Next, Strider SNG, probably my favorite knife. I still haven't, like, everything that I feel like I want to test or get, I feel like I've kind of gotten, or I will be getting, and it's going to take a lot to move me away from this knife. Like, I think if I had to pick one knife out of all the knives that I own, this would probably be it. So, huge SNG fan. Next, Berg Blades. This is the Iron Wolf. Just recently did a very short review, kind of initial impressions on this, but this is a beautiful blade. Absolutely love it. Can't say enough good things. I really want to get my hands on an Iron Pup, which is the smaller version of this, but super impressed with this. Definitely an apocalypse knife all day of the week. The next one, I'll do two of them. Huge Brian Dow Sharper by Design fan. So I have this Tempest and all DLC. I also ended up trading for this Tempest. I love these. I carry at least one of these once a day. I can't say enough good things about Brian Dow and Sharper by Design, or Sharp by Design, as it were. Huge fan of these designs. The next knife is a McNeese PM2. This is the Tribot Design version. I like this knife. It's a little bit small for me, and I did do a pretty comprehensive review of this one. I don't know if I'm going to hold on to it. I like it, but, especially it being a Tribot Design one, you kind of have to make that decision whether or not you're going to actually use it and beat it up and then, throw some snail trails on it, etc. I'm just not there yet with it. Like, I think it's a great knife, but still kind of on the fence whether or not this one has a permanent place in my stable. The next knife, so my son's name is Emerson, and I used to, back in the day, I had an auto that was like a Benchmade Emerson. So back in the day, Emerson, when he was getting started, he actually made his blades in Benchmade's factory, and I thought that was really cool. So this is like a really old CQC7. It's not cleaned up at all, but honestly, I paid, I think, $75 for this, and it's ATS 34. it's really shitty, but I don't really care. Like I love that. Like I love knives that have my son's name on it. I actually ended up getting him a Roadhouse, which is getting engraved right now with his like NICU graduation date. So that'll be really cool. Huge Emerson fan. Next knife, we have a Hinderer Dauntless. This is a Hinderer Tad Dauntless. It's running on bearings. It's a little bit small for me, and honestly, like for the life of me, I don't know why Tad made any knives that didn't have the topographic map on it. That's kind of frustrating, but I picked this one up for a really good price. I don't think like I'll ever carry this one. I do want to review it because I like the design of this knife, but you know, it's anyone's guess whether or not I will hold on to this one. The next knife, so Curtis F3 medium Spanto blade. Just did the review of this one. Love this knife for sure. I think in 2022 this has everything that you could ever want or need. So huge fan of this knife. Would love to get my hands on another Curtis. The next knife, this one's been in the family for years. This is a Spyderco Delica that I got probably in 2006 or 2007. It's just been around for a long time, and it's always been one of those knives where, you know, I really didn't care what happened to it, but I always kind of carried it, and it always, you know, turned face up, so I held on to it. I've never lost this one. That's the main point there. This next knife is a Gerber, which is like an assisted open axis lock. It's probably a $20 knife, but I always kept this one in mind, and I honestly, like, I would carry this when I was like flying or had to check a bag, just because it was a knife that I knew would work. Like, I really do like Gerbers as far as knives go, and if you stole this from me right now, like, I wouldn't care at all. I'd be like, oh, all right, you know, whatever. But yeah, so that's the story with that knife. It's could take it or leave it. It's just one that I have in my gun safe. All right, the next folder is a Spyderco PM2, which I kind of look at this one. It was my reintroduction into Spyderco. Again, I had been out of the game since this Delica, and it was pretty cool to see where things have gone with it. I haven't reviewed this one yet. I still definitely want to test it more, but I've been really impressed with it. Like some other ones you'll see here, like I kind of have to get used to the lockup on it, but I do like it, and I think it has a place in anyone's EDC. The next is a Manix. This is the XL version, which this thing is just a behemoth, and I carried this for a little bit, and I thought I was like, oh, I'll knock this review out real quick, but I still don't know enough about this knife to feel good about doing a review, but you know, definitely forthcoming. I'm still working on it. I should probably get one of the Manix lights as well, because I have a few strong opinions about that one, but we'll see where it ends. Next one is a Benchmade Griptilian. I got this one actually when I was at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Charleston, and I don't know, like this knife has always been kind of the benchmark for smaller folders. It's not fidget friendly at all, but I know it's super, you know, under the radar. It works, and so any other smaller knife that you give me, I'm probably going to be comparing it to this one. So just worth mentioning. Next knife, Spyderco Shaman. I reviewed this one. You know, this one is in crew wear. I wouldn't say like I didn't pay dearly for this thing, but it was more expensive than I thought. And for some reason, like even realizing that these things are very hot right now, I still can't get rid of this thing. Like I definitely do like it. I think it's kind of like the Strider of Spydercos in a way. I do like it. I think I want to test it out even more, carry it even more to see what's up with it. The next knife, and I definitely don't want to end on this one, Blackhawk. This is the CQD Mark 1. I was actually issued this at one point, which is so embarrassing. I literally just keep this in my Jeep because of the seatbelt cutter that it has on it, but this thing is trash, and I almost did like a review on this knife just because it was so bad, just out of sheer irony, but I couldn't get myself to do it. So maybe someday I will do it, but for now, this thing just sits in my Jeep. Hopefully I never have to use it. And then last but certainly not least, one of my favorite knives that has been with me longer than any of these knives at the table, Strider SMF. Huge fan of this knife. I could probably do a separate review of it. I know I hit the SNG, but this is like my favorite all-around design. Like, I love the weight of it, love how it feels in my pocket. I'm super confident with it. I've done a ton of stuff with it. Yeah, this is probably my favorite folder. So it's gonna take a lot to to get me to move from this one. I think I'll hold on to this one forever. And with that, I mean, that's kind of the state of my knife collection right now. I have a Quiet Carry Drift in the mail. I'm always looking for new ideas, new things to test out. Really enjoy doing this. So appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time.